leaders in digitalization within the Africa region and potentially in the world. So their infrastructure, they've learned from the rest of the world. But what I found was that whilst they have the best, for me personally, I feel that they still got one of the best digitalization infrastructures, but there was no mechanism to allow people to utilize it and maximize it.
Bienvenidos y bienvenidas a un nuevo episodio del podcast oficial de Entrepreneurship, Innovadores. Aquí Sebastián Aguiluz, cofundador y CEO de Entrepreneurship, y estoy con Arif Esa, cofundador y CEO de MoneyIN Global. Por el resto de la entrevista estaremos hablando en inglés, entonces, pues, perdón que lo tengamos que hacer así, pero bueno, aprovecho para dar bienvenida a Arif. Hi Arif, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you?
Fine, thanks. Great to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Arif, for people who are unfamiliar with you, could you tell us a little bit more?
Yep, sure, thank you. My name is Arif Esa. I'm the CEO of MoneyIN Global. We are a digital fintech company that was first originated out from Morocco in North Africa, where we decided to revolutionize, should we say, the financial industry. Now, MoneyIN Global was created from an ideation to the fact that 70% at that particular time of the population didn't have easy access to the banking system or the traditional banking system. People found it difficult in order to make payments, grow their business, make cross-border payments, and just generally live their lives in an easier way that they should be living it without having the stress of financial needs. Therefore, MoneyIN decided to create a platform that would hopefully revolutionize the system in order to allow people to register to the platform without the need of a bank account. So everything can be done via their smartphones or via the traditional phones with an internet connection. Now, MoneyIN hopefully will introduce a system which will allow people to just spend, transfer, earn money, and initiate global transfers instantly, essentially. So if we don't charge any additional fees, for example, the traditional banks, you'll have to pay monthly fees, whereas with us, we want to give the proceeds back to the actual people to allow them to just feel comfortable and safe when doing their day-to-day business. And that's just in a nutshell of what we're actually doing at the moment. MoneyIN Global, the word global came from when we were introduced to the Canadian government and the country, where we've just received 13 different financial licenses and expanding our platform, hopefully outwards to the rest of the world, to allow people to integrate their existing business and existing lives in order to do transactions seamlessly worldwide. So that's just a snapshot of what we're doing and how the ideation came about.
Perfect. Talking about worldwide and finance, what role do you think technology plays in transforming both finance and the global trade?
Yeah, I think the role MoneyIN plays is quite crucial because we're trying to step away from the traditional banking and the traditional mentality that people have when it comes to their personal finance and business finance. MoneyIN, I believe, were one of, if not only, the newest super app, I like to call it, that allows everyone to integrate everything from their daily lives into the application. So, for example, if you're a corporate entity, you can use our application in order to streamline your business activities, in order to monitor and manage your transactions, whether you've got one branch or 1,000 branches. You'll be able to manage all of this seamlessly at ease with a few clicks of a button. If you're a merchant, for example, traditionally you have higher merchant fees. So what we're trying to implement is a lower merchant fee and allow you to have access to your money instantly. Therefore, a shop doesn't have to wait 2 or 3 days to wait for the transaction to process. they can instantly order new supplies without having to borrow money from the banks, without having to utilize credit facilities. We believe that this money belongs to them, so they should have access to it instantly, no matter where they are or how small or how big they are. And lastly, we've introduced the consumer app, which allows the day-to-day person to easily manage their finances and expenditures with a click of a button. So the way to simplify it would be is that one, if you don't have a bank account, you can download the application once it's launched, and you'll be able to instantly apply for an account within seconds just by the use of your mobile phone number. After which, your mobile phone number becomes your actual account number, where someone's able to transfer money via SMS, via emails, via QR payments, uh, whatever you can think of, you'll be able to do it ultimately. And that's what it's all about, convenience. It's about convenience to make the lives easier for the day-to-day person who doesn't have the time in their life to wait around hours in the bank to access their financials, to help them stay out of debt. So we've introduced in artificial intelligence to allow people to understand that if they're in a debt, then the platform will teach them how to stay out of debt and allow them to uh, properly manage their finances in order to accomplish certain goals and targets that they've set towards their future. So, to answer the question in a nutshell, this is how we believe we will revolutionize the industry and why it's critical that companies like ours and other fintech companies push forward with the advancement of using technology locally and internationally in order to make the lives easier for the people.
What do you think will be the relationship between traditional banking and fintech in the future? Are they Will they merge? Will they be each one in different corners? Will there be an amalgam? How do you imagine the future of
Yeah.
cohabiting of those two?
I think the transition is occurring already. I think when fintech was first introduced into the world, the big players or the big banks, they didn't like it at all. They saw it as competition. They saw it as a threat to their industry. And unfortunately, some countries still feel this way. And that's why the economy hasn't grown the way it should be growing and should be adapting and evolving to the new technology. Nowadays, with the Western world, you find that a lot of the big banks are starting to accept these models. They're starting to realize that instead of fighting against fintech, they should be working with the fintechs. So a key difference is that fintech companies like ours, we're not a full-fledged bank or a payment institution or and money offering a monetary service. Therefore, we have to partner with the traditional banks. We have to keep the client's funds and the user's funds safe within the traditional banks. So if the two industries doesn't live together, then it's not going to work out for either side. And that's why I believe that they have now started to work co in hand, and they have started realizing that they can make money together and grow together rather than trying to compete with each other.
What strategies would you recommend for someone who maybe wants to innovate or wants to start their own business in the financial sector in fintech, but they don't have a background in either finance or banking or something like that? What would you recommend to those people who want to start their business
I
without that
think what the per yeah, so I think the first thing the person must do is they must have a team. It's important to have a team because in order to change the mindset of their target audience, they need to portray that they've got some financial knowledge and they need to portray to the regulators that they have some financial knowledge. So if, for example, you don't have any financial background or banking experience, then you need to make sure your team around you does. And you need to portray this message to the regulators and to your clientele in order to make sure and give the confidence that you're capable of running and operating this business, because at the end of the day, you're dealing with other people's money, and you don't want to put these people at risk by making silly mistakes and then you end up losing it. So for anyone who's looking to go into this industry, uh, to do it alone, it's not possible. It's even with my background in the financial industry, it's just not possible to do it alone. You just have to have the right people around you, the right investors, the right partners, and the right people to collaborate with, and you will succeed.
What change have you noticed in client expectations when it comes to using fintech solutions? Are people still a little afraid to try new options, or are they the first adopters of this kind of technology?
I think I can only talk of experience. So I can only talk about what we've seen within our industry and within our business. Now, essentially, when you first talk about fintech to the consumers and other businesses, we found that a lot of people were skeptical because unfortunately they don't trust the banks. And when they don't trust the banks, they automatically think that a fintech company is owned and operated by one of these existing banks. So you really have to engage with the actual users, and you have to engage with the population and the citizens that and teach them that this is exactly what we're doing, and we're not a big high street bank to that's going to give you false promises and false hope. So we found that to start with, the older generation were the ones more skeptical, that they didn't believe that they didn't trust the banks and they didn't trust any new companies coming forward. They always say cash is king, and and this was our biggest challenge when we were trying to um, encourage and motivate the population or the older generation to start diversifying and moving into the fintech industry. When it comes to the newer generation, we don't need to convince them because they have enough knowledge and experience with digitalization that it's about who's offering the better service, and not so much that we don't trust these people. It's about who's offering a better service and what's the uniqueness that's going to benefit them as an individual and make life easier for them. Everyone's after a convenience, and that's what fintech does: is offer a convenience. So I think the two uh, groups, the older generation and the newer generation, there was a big gap, but it's starting to weigh in on the older generation now, that when they realize that we're not like the traditional banks, they're starting to adopt to the new technology and starting to trust it more and more each day. That's what we found with when we were promoting ourselves.
As a fintech entrepreneur yourself, what emerging trends do you think will define the future of finance and fintech use? Like consumer wise, where is the trend going?
Uh, if I heard correctly, you're talking about the consumer wise, where the trend's going for the everyday person
Exactly.
when it comes to digitalization and things. Yeah. So the way we're looking at it and the way what we're seeing within our day-to-day activities and marketing is that we see that the consumers want to adapt to new technology. They want their money instantly. They don't want to be paying high fees. They don't want to be waiting 7 days for a payment to clear, locally or internationally. And that's why you find a lot of fintech companies now uh, being launched globally, not just locally, but globally on an everyday basis. So for us, I feel that the demand in the for the consumer is vast, is massive. Uh, it's whether or not the fintech industry can actually provide a uniqueness to towards that consumer to meet the demands. So you'll find a lot of companies are launching, but unfortunately, they're not able to survive. They're not able to offer something unique to their users, and to the actual general population, and therefore they end up going bankrupt, and then the consumer starts questioning whether this is the right way to go. For us, what we're trying to show is that um, we have the right collaborators in order to sustain our model, in order to provide the convenience for the everyday person when it comes to local payments and international payments. We always have to advance our technology and update our software in order to meet the demand of the consumers in itself. And that's the only way you're going to be able to uh, keep the attention of the consumer and make them use you on a frequent basis. And technology these days is growing rapidly and changing rapidly each day. So you have to be on top of your game in order to keep everyone happy.
Hey, aquí Sebas. Perdona que te interrumpa el podcast, pero aprovechando que ya llegaste hasta aquí, quería pedirte que nos apoyes. Si estás en YouTube, dándonos like, dándole click a la campanita y suscribiéndote al canal. Y si estás en Spotify, danos seguir y calificándonos. Es totalmente gratis y la neta ayuda muchísimo para que podamos seguir trayendo nuevos invitados cada semana. Sigue innovando. And let me tell you a bit about the fintech sector here in Mexico. It's mostly it's been growing really fast because for many years the banking industry in Mexico has had and still has a lot of pull, but only 10% of the population had access to something as basic as a credit card. So uh, we basically had a 120 million population where only 10% had access to a credit card. So fintech grew really fast. That's the
Wow.
reason why, along with Brazil, is the biggest country in fintech ecosystem in Latin America. Uh, Having tell you that, uh, I want to know how is the fintech industry in Canada, where you are uh, working from.
Definitely, definitely. I think with Canada in itself, Canada has been open to the fintech and digitalization for a very long time. And I, to be honest, when I first came to Canada, so I've been here for about a year now, uh, I was shocked to see how advanced they were because I was coming from Morocco, where I was living for the past 10 years. So to move from Morocco to Canada and see that everyone is using their mobile phones. Everyone is using not even their debit cards anymore. They're just using their mobile phones to make the payments through the tap and pay features. So for me, I found that there's a huge opportunity and huge growth rate, but I quickly learned that the charges were way too high to make a payment, to receive payments. For merchants, they were paying maybe close to about 5%. They were waiting 3 or 4 days for the payments to clear. So there's still a lot of work that needs to be done in order to make it more widely applicable to the clientele, to everyone in essence. When it comes to cross-border payments, you're still waiting 3 or 4 days, maybe 5 days at times for international payments to clear. Just for local payments, you're still waiting 5 days. So for me, that's not acceptable. That this has to change, and the only way to make that change is to actually implement these new systems yourself. And Canada's very, very open to this. It was because of we only moved to Canada because they asked us to come to Canada because of our technology and the platform that we've created was a positive benefit to the economy in order to help grow the industry in a faster mechanism, in a faster way. So that's why we came to Canada for that basis. And we've very quickly learned that the demand is high. People are open to it. People are wanting to use it. And people will adapt to any new technology that offers a uniqueness that will help benefit them as an individual to make life convenient. So the market's very big. There's a lot of competition, but I still believe that there's a huge demand for growth for anyone looking to start in the fintech industry in Canada.
Perfect. Um, Something I didn't mention when telling you the fintech history is that after a while we had a fintech reform, and it has its ups and downs. The main one is that it puts a lot of barriers to new fintech founders to start without any substantial investing before that. But well,
Yeah.
it's good to know that the Canada government is also helping fintech entrepreneurs get a start. I wanted to ask you, as an immigrant entrepreneur, um, how is your experience moving from Africa to Canada and take that technology and bring it into another ecosystem that's probably more developed than the one you were from? And I'm just guessing that because you moved for for some reason, right?
No, that's fine. Well, originally, I'm actually born and raised in England. So I'm used to the digitalization already. So when I first moved to North Africa and Morocco, I quickly realized a big difference in the way people were living, in the way the digitalization didn't really exist 10 years ago in Africa, in Morocco. It wasn't adopted by anyone, essentially. Today, it's adopted quite rapidly, and they have developed it on a rapid scale due to COVID. People have come out with new innovations, and Morocco is pushing towards trying to be the leaders in digitalization within the African region and potentially in the world. So their infrastructure they've learned from the rest of the world. But what I found was that whilst they have the best, for me personally, I feel that they still got one of the best digitalizations infrastructures, but there was no mechanism to allow people to utilize it and maximize it, and that was the challenge in Morocco. That you have everything, but how do you use it without all the regulatory procedures? It became a real obstacle to try and do anything there on a day-to-day basis. And even when they adopted digitalization, it became very difficult to use it because it wasn't set up in an easy manner. It was very complicated, and that's why a lot of people were put off moving into the digital world in Africa in general. But when I came to Canada, uh, for me, it was a big change because I think I must have forgotten how advanced the West was because of living in Morocco for 10 years without this technology. And so it was like a fresh of breath air that, okay, there's more to work with here. People have adopted and using digitalization on a day-to-day basis. Some of the biggest companies in fintech and startups are based in Canada. So for me, this was a good challenger point to push the boundaries and push our technology to advance it even more to what we did for Africa, to be able to create new ideas, to be able to create new models and new products that no one's ever seen before. So I think Canada gave me that spark, should we say, to really develop new technology and push it and use Canada as a stage to show it to the rest of the world. So there was a big difference, but it's brought me back to reality, should we say?
Perfect. Um, Arif, to start wrapping this up, in Innovadores, we
Yeah,
always ask them for their three do's and three don'ts for entrepreneurs. Basically, three things you think they should do and three things you think they shouldn't do. So, what are your three do's and three don'ts?
yeah. Well, my advice for entrepreneurs would be that the first key thing is research and market research. You must do the market research. You must do the research of your industry. I was always taught by my grandparents and my parents that if you're going to do something, be the best at what you do. Don't just give it half measures. You have to be the best at what you do. in order to succeed in that industry. So that's the first point. The second point, I would always recommend networking. You have to network. You have to go out there and meet new people. You have to engage with people, and you have to learn from these people. And never feel that you're asking the wrong question, because you have to see life as a learning experience. You're going to learn every single day, no matter what. Even if you're the expert in that industry, you will learn every single day. So network and meet new people and build a team. And the last one would be surround yourself with people that you trust, that you know, and that are honorable and transparent. Don't fall for the traps that are out there. Don't just go and talk to the wrong person and you haven't done the research on them and you've given everything away and you've lost. Never give up, but have the right people around you and just continue to keep learning over and over again. And you will succeed in your industry, you will succeed in life, but never let anything put you down. Just keep learning. You should see it as a learning curve, and you will succeed in your industry. And never give up. And that's the best advice that I received, and that's what's got me through our journey. There has been an ups and downs, but it has got us through because that's what we did. We remembered and we listened and we learned and we surround ourselves with the right people, and that's key in this industry, or especially in startups.
Perfect. And if they wanted to get in contact with you or use your wallet or any other reason why they want to contact you, how can they find you on social media?
I'm an open book. I'm on most social media's platforms just by my first name and last name, Arif Esa. Uh, just by searching me in Google, you'll find all my personal details. So I'm open to helping people. I'm open to working with people, and I'm not the one that hides away. So as I said, you can reach out to me any way possible. You can search online my name, and you will find me, and I will always respond, no matter what.
Perfect. Well, Arif, I want to thank you for your time. I hope you had such a good time as we did. And as we say on this program, keep innovating. Muchísimas gracias por haber llegado hasta el final del episodio. Espero que lo hayas disfrutado. Si te gustó, literalmente contamos con cientos de episodios donde invitamos a gente chingona de todo el mundo con todo tipo de profesiones para compartir su historia y donde cada semana encontrarás a nuevos invitados. Si nos quieres compartir lo que pensaste o sugerirnos nuestros invitados, la sección de comentarios está abierta y nuestros datos de contacto están en la descripción. Sigue innovando.